Eugène Delacroix's The Barque of Dante, completed in 1822, stands as a pivotal work in the evolution of 19th century European painting. This canvas, measuring over 6 feet wide, represents Delacroix's first major public statement as an artist and is widely recognized as a landmark in the transition from the refined restraint of neoclassicism to the expressive drama of Romanticism. The subject is drawn from one of the most influential texts in Western literature, Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy, specifically the 8th canto of the Inferno. Here, viewers witness the poet Dante, guided by the Roman poet Virgil, as they cross the River Styx, a boundary between the upper and lower circles of hell. The painting's narrative, composition, and technical execution collectively mark a moment of significant change in the history of narrative art. Delacroix's choice of subject was both ambitious and timely. Dante's Divine Comedy had experienced a resurgence in popularity among artists and intellectuals in early 19th century France, valued for its psychological depth and dramatic imagery. By selecting a scene from this epic, Delacroix aligned himself with a tradition of literary painting, but he approached it with a markedly new sensibility. The Barque of Dante does not merely illustrate a passage from literature. It interprets and amplifies the emotional stakes of the narrative through visual means. The painting's atmosphere is immediately striking. A heavy, smoky mist suffuses the background, pierced by the fiery glow of the city of Dis. This infernal city, described by Dante as a place of burning tombs and eternal punishment, looms ominously, its flames casting an unnatural light over the entire composition. The setting is both specific, in its reference to Dante's text, and evocative, contributing to the sense of peril and psychological intensity that defines the work. At the heart of the composition are the figures of Dante and Virgil, whose presence anchors the narrative. Dante, clad in a pale green robe and the distinctive red cap traditionally associated with him, stands at the prow of the boat. His posture is tense, his body recoiling slightly as he raises his right hand in a gesture that suggests both fear and self-protection. His gaze is directed outward, towards the tormented souls in the water, and his expression conveys a mixture of horror and uncertainty. In contrast, Virgil stands beside him, calm and composed, draped in a reddish-brown cloak and crowned with a laurel wreath, a symbol of poetic achievement. Virgil's demeanor is one of quiet authority. His left hand rests reassuringly on Dante's shoulder, a gesture of guidance and support. The contrast between the two figures is deliberate and central to the painting's meaning. Dante's vulnerability and emotional turmoil are set against Virgil's steadiness and wisdom, visually reinforcing the theme of mentorship and protection that runs throughout the Divine Comedy. A closer examination of Delacroix's rendering reveals his attention to psychological nuance. The faces of both poets are meticulously detailed, their features illuminated by the flickering light from the burning city. The folds of their garments are carefully modeled, with subtle variations in color and texture that distinguish the two characters. Delacroix's handling of paint in these passages is precise, demonstrating his academic training, but the overall effect is one of heightened drama rather than classical restraint. This emphasis on individual emotion and expressive gesture was a departure from the prevailing norms of history painting at the time. Surrounding the boat, the waters of the Styx are alive with struggling figures. These are the damned souls condemned to eternal suffering, as described in Dante's text. Delacroix renders them in various states of anguish. Some reach desperately towards the boat, others appear to be sinking or writhing in pain. Their bodies are muscular and contorted, their faces twisted in expressions of despair. The artist's use of chiaroscuro, or the contrast between light and shadow, heightens the sense of physical and emotional tension. The light from the burning city glances off their wet skin, accentuating the sinews and veins of their bodies. This focus on the raw physicality of suffering is characteristic of Romantic art, which sought to evoke intense feeling in the viewer. Spot zooming in on these tormented souls reveals Delacroix's technical skill and his engagement with earlier artistic traditions. The anatomy of the figures recalls the influence of Michelangelo, whose works Delacroix studied closely. However, the mood is distinctively modern. Rather than idealizing the human form, Delacroix emphasizes vulnerability and struggle. The contrast between the chaotic motion of the damned and the relative stability of Dante and Virgil underscores the perilous nature of the crossing. The boat itself appears to be tossed by invisible currents, its passengers at the mercy of forces beyond their control. This sense of instability and danger is further reinforced by the turbulent brushwork in the water, where thick, swirling strokes suggest both movement and menace. The background, dominated by the burning city of Dis, situates the narrative within a specific moment of Dante's journey. In the Divine Comedy, Dis is described as a vast, walled city whose gates are guarded by fallen angels and monstrous figures. Delacroix translates this literary description into a visual spectacle of fire and smoke. The city's architecture is only vaguely suggested. Towers and battlements dissolve into the haze, their outlines blurred by the heat and darkness. The flames themselves are painted with vivid reds, oranges, and yellows, contrasting sharply with the cold, leaden tones of the water and sky. This juxtaposition of color and light serves both a narrative and symbolic function. The fiery city represents the next stage of Dante's descent, a threshold between different realms of punishment. It also embodies the romantic fascination with the sublime, the awe-inspiring and sometimes terrifying power of nature and the imagination. Delacroix's approach to color in the Barque of Dante is particularly significant. Rather than relying on the balanced, harmonious palettes favored by neoclassical painters, he employs bold, sometimes jarring contrasts to heighten the emotional impact of the scene. The cool greens and blues of Dante's robe and the water are set against the warm tones of Virgil's cloak and the flames of Dis. This use of color as an expressive tool was innovated at the time and would become a hallmark of Delacroix's later work. The brushwork, too, departs from the smooth, polished surfaces of academic art. In areas such as the water and the smoke, Delacroix's strokes are loose and energetic, conveying a sense of movement and immediacy. The Barque of Dante is not only a technical achievement, it also reflects broader cultural and artistic shifts in early 19th century France. Delacroix was keenly aware of the debates surrounding the role of emotion, imagination, and individuality in art. By choosing a subject that combined literary prestige with opportunities for dramatic expression, he positioned himself at the forefront of the emerging Romantic movement. The painting was exhibited at the Paris Salon of 1822, where it attracted significant attention from critics and the public. Some praised its originality and emotional power, while others were unsettled by its departure from established conventions. Regardless of the initial controversy, the work established Delacroix's reputation as a leading figure in French art. The painting's subsequent history further underscores its importance. After its debut at the Salon, the Barque of Dante was acquired by the French state and eventually entered the collection of the Louvre Museum. Its presence in the Louvre situates it among the masterpieces of Western art and ensures its continued visibility to scholars, students, and the general public. Over the years, the painting has been studied for its innovative approach to narrative, its technical virtuosity, and its role in shaping the course of Romanticism. It has also inspired later artists, including the Impressionists, who admired Delacroix's use of color and expressive brushwork. While the market value of the Barque of Dante is not frequently discussed, its cultural and historical significance is well established. The painting represents a turning point in the history of art, signaling a move away from the idealized forms and rational compositions of the past towards a new emphasis on emotion, drama, and individual vision. Delacroix's interpretation of Dante's journey across the Styx continues to resonate, offering viewers a compelling meditation on fear, guidance, and the human condition. In reflecting on the legacy of the Barque of Dante, it is clear that Delacroix's achievement lies not only in his technical mastery, but also in his ability to translate complex literary and philosophical ideas into visual form. The painting stands as a testament to the enduring power of narrative art and to the capacity of painting to evoke both the terrors and the hopes that define human experience. Through its innovative composition, expressive color, and psychological depth, the Barque of Dante remains a foundational work in the history of Romanticism and a lasting contribution to the visual interpretation of one of literature's greatest journeys.